Coming up on our newscast, the vaccine pass rule is lifted for select facilities here in the nation. The daily virus tally stood at over 4,000, but concerns still linger over the Omicron spread. President Moon Jae-in travels to Saudi Arabia. He is meeting Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to discuss bilateral coordination on various sectors. LG Energy Solution is set to go public on the local stock market. It seems set to be the biggest Korean IPO in history. Hello, welcome. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with the top story at this hour. South Korea reported just over 4,000 new COVID-19 cases. Concerns over the Omicron variant still lingers. Vaccine passes are no longer required at select places where masks will be kept on. Kim Hyun-sung starts us off.
South Korea's total number of COVID-19 cases has now topped 700,000, with another 4,072 new cases added on Tuesday. 309 were imported cases, while the rest were domestic infections. Local cases are increasing outside the capital. Infections in non-capital regions made up around 40% of Tuesday's local cases, jumping from 30% earlier this month. Authorities say that the rise seems to be fueled by Omicron because non-capital regions are reporting rapid rates of Omicron spread. Omicron already seems to be the dominant strain in Jeollabuk-do and Jeollanam-do provinces, as well as Gwangju City. Authorities expect Omicron to become dominant nationwide by this weekend. Meanwhile, starting from Tuesday, vaccine passes are no longer required in venues where people don't have to take their masks off. This includes large supermarkets, department stores, study rooms, museums, libraries, and movie theaters. But in place of these measures, eating in these venues will not be allowed. Further tweaks to vaccine rules may come, as Son Young-rae, a senior health ministry official, said Tuesday that the government is looking to provide more vaccine pass exemptions. That announcement is due later this week. There's still much confusion about the vaccine pass situation for minors. The government's original plan was to enforce vaccine passes for those aged 12 to 18 starting from March. But this has recently been thwarted by the Seoul Administrative Court's decision to suspend vaccine passes for underage citizens. The South Korean government is looking to appeal that injunction and is hoping to reach an agreement before March. Health authorities still remain adamant that vaccine passes are needed to protect minors at venues like PC rooms, singing rooms, restaurants, and cafes. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
The nation's education ministry will offer compensation to students experiencing vaccine side effects. Data shows some 0.27% of this group experience adverse reactions. Here's Choi Min-jung with a breakdown of the figures.
More under-18s in South Korea who suffer side effects from vaccination will now be able to get compensation for their medical expenses. The Ministry of Education on Tuesday announced that under-18s who experience serious adverse reactions within 90 days of vaccination can get up to 5 million won, equal to around $4,200. This money will be given to those under-18s who are unable to get national compensation due to lack of causality. The ministry also plans on providing up to 3 million won, or around $2,400, to under-18s whose mental health has suffered amid the pandemic. People will be able to apply for the assistance from this February until May 2023. As of Monday, more than 78% of those aged 13 to 18 have received at least one jab. More than two-thirds have been fully vaccinated. Out of more than 4 million administered shots in total, close to 11,000 suspected cases of adverse reactions were reported. This is around 0.27%. Of them, there were 284 reports of serious adverse reactions. Meanwhile, health officials have decided to give each city or province the authority to confirm causality and handle compensation of less than around $250 without the involvement of the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The decision comes in a bid to speed up the process, as most reports of adverse reactions are not severe. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The Winter Games is just weeks away, but China is struggling with the Omicron variant. Travel restrictions are placed ahead of the Lunar New Year period. President Xi Jinping expressed confidence in successfully hosting the global event. Kim Jong-un tells us more.
China is struggling to stamp out the highly transmissible Omicron variant as the strain has been reported in 9 districts of 6 different provinces in less than 2 weeks. This comes on the back of the country reporting its highest number of cases in nearly 2 years on Monday at 223. In particular, Beijing, the city that is to host the Winter Olympics in less than 3 weeks, reported its first locally transmitted case of the Omicron variant over the weekend. With that, the Chinese capital is on high alert and is now demanding a negative test as well as a follow-up test for those entering the city, while locals are urged not to travel for the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday. Athletes and officials involved in the Winter Olympics have already started to land in Beijing ahead of the Games, immediately entering a tightly controlled bubble separating them from the rest of the population. China has subsequently announced it would not be selling tickets to members of the public for the Games, and only people invited will be allowed to attend. Currently, it's not clear how they will be selected. During a virtual address to the 2022 Economic Forum, Chinese President Xi Jinping underscored Beijing's confidence in ensuring that the Games are a success.
We are confident that China will present a streamlined, safe, and splendid Games to the world. The official motto for Beijing 2022 is Together for a Shared Future. Indeed, let us join hands with full confidence and work together for a shared future.
Athletes will not be required to be vaccinated against COVID-19, but those who are unvaccinated will have to spend 21 days in quarantine upon arrival in China. Kim Chang-ah, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in meet with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. They are expected to discuss ways to expand bilateral cooperation in traditional sectors such as energy and construction, as well as in promising industries like AI, defense, and the hydrogen economy. The two sides mark 60 years of diplomatic ties. Later in the day, Moon is scheduled to attend a business forum on smart, innovative cooperation. On the sidelines, he'll meet with the chairman of Saudi's state-run oil giant Aramco. For the start of his 2-day official visit, Moon was greeted at the airport on Tuesday by Prince Mohammed and with an honor guard marching band. North Korea claims the 2 projectiles fired on Monday were tactical guided missiles. The regime also said the launch was carried out to test the accuracy of the weapon systems already in production. Kim Dami brings the updates.
North Korea confirmed on Tuesday that it test-fired what it appears to be the regime's KN-24 missile the previous day, the regime's version of a U.S. Army tactical missile system. The North State media reported the Academy of Defense Science staged the launch to confirm the accuracy and efficiency of the weapon system under production, meaning the North will expand the weapons production. Experts say the latest round of missiles clearly indicates the current U.S. pressure, such as a blacklisting of 6 North Koreans for their involvement in the North's weapons programs, won't stop Pyongyang from testing missiles. But they also note that such missile activity may not continue into February.
It's a pressure tactic for North Korea as an ally of China to continue conducting missile tests right before the Beijing Winter Games. They won't keep up this tempo of missile launches.
Plus, it's necessary for the North to consider internal difficulties.
The North is also highlighting improving people's livelihoods, so it might control the speed of weapons development.
Since Monday's launch was neither for unveiling a new weapon nor staging a final test launch, leader Kim Jong-un was not in attendance for what's already the 4th show of force of the new year. The test firing of the KN-24 on Monday marked the 4th launch of its kind, following 2 in August 2019 and 1 in March 2020, which the leader Kim Jong-un did attend. Kim Dami, Arirang News.
The regime appears to have tested the same type of tactical guided missiles launched in 2019 and 2020. The KN-24 Seoul's military claims to have the capabilities to detect and intercept this kind of projectiles. Bae Eun-ji has the details.
A photo released by North Korea's state-run media on Tuesday shows that what the regime fired the day before appears to be its KN-24 missile. The North's KCNA reported that the regime conducted a test of its tactical guided missiles and claimed that the 2 missiles precisely hit an island target in the East Sea. Tactical guided missiles are short-range weapons used in the immediate combat area. The KN-24 resembles the U.S. Army's tactical missile system and is typically launched from what's called a TEL, or a wheel transporter erector launcher. It's known to be able to fly on a complicated trajectory to evade interception.
KN-24 missiles can maneuver easily, making them difficult to be detected by ballistic missile defense radars. So with the defense radar South Korea currently has, intercepting this missile would be tricky.
This marks the fourth time that the North has launched this type of missile. It last fired the KN-24 in March 2020, after testing it twice in August 2019. But regarding the latest launch, South Korea said it has the ability to detect and intercept it.
Our military has the capability to detect and intercept this weapon, and we're continuing our efforts to strengthen our defense systems.
Seoul's military had earlier confirmed on Monday that the North launched 2 projectiles that appear to be ballistic missiles from an airfield in its capital city of Pyongyang. It said that the missiles flew about 380 kilometers at a maximum altitude of 42 kilometers. The latest missile was the 4th time this year that the North had tested some type of projectile. The previous 2 launches involved what the North claimed to have been hypersonic missiles, which are capable of maneuvering at very high speeds. 배은지, Arirang News.
A North Korean freight train pulled into the Chinese city of Dandong on Monday, the third one since the regime's border lockdown due to COVID-19. The second train returned to the north on Monday morning, reportedly carrying daily necessities and emergency relief items. Sources say the items had most likely been purchased before the pandemic but could not be delivered due to the lockdown imposed a year and a half ago. Trade between Pyongyang and Beijing decreased significantly during that period. Japan's Kyodo News reported that the two sides' trade volume last year dropped 90% compared to 2019. Less than 2 months until South Koreans head to the polls, with no single presidential hopeful boasting a clear lead, attention shifts to a potential strategic alliance between 2 conservative candidates. Jong-un provides a closer look.
The March 9th presidential election has become even more difficult to predict. 50 days ago, polls showed a neck-and-neck race between the ruling Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung and the main opposition's Yoon Suk-yeol. Fast forward, the race between the 2 main contenders is still as tight as ever. But there is a new variable, the rise of the minor opposition People's Party's An Chol-soo. His ratings rose dramatically, mainly while Yoon saw a decline. This changing landscape is bringing attention to a potential merger between Yoon and An as a single conservative candidate. Such mergers are an election strategy to increase the chances of winning when there's no candidate with more than 50% support. It can occur in South Korea because there's no runoff race. A strategic alliance often plays a key part in election victory, like for former presidents Kim Dae-jung and Roh Moo-hyun. Back in 1997, Kim Dae-jung and Kim Jong-pil reached the so-called DJP coalition agreement, under which Kim Dae-jung took the presidential candidacy while guaranteeing Kim Jong-pil the role of first prime minister. Observers say the 2 candidates with regional and political differences helped Kim expand his supporter base. The 2002 election saw a merge between former President Roh Moo-hyun and Hyundai Group's Chung Mong-jun. Although Chung retracted his support soon after, the merger deal gave No the momentum to seal the final win. But not all merger attempts succeed. Like in 1987, when Kim Young-sam and Kim Dae-jung failed to reach an agreement paving the way for Roh Tae-woo's victory. An Chol-soo, who is at the center of this year's potential merger, is not new to strategic alliances. 10 years ago, he gave up his presidential candidacy in support for Moon Jae-in. In 2011, he resigned from Seoul mayoral by-election to support Park Won-soon. And last year, in another mayoral by-election, he reached an agreement with Oh Se-hoon to hold a public opinion poll to decide which of them will run. An lost that poll. As for this election, An has so far been keeping a firm stance that he will end the race himself. The People Power Party's chairman also ruled out the possibility of an alliance, emphasizing self-sufficiency. While no official discussion has begun between the 2 parties, there is much attention on whether this could materialize and once again be a major game changer in this year's election. Jong-un, Arirang News.
On Tuesday, Indonesia released 48 ships with thermal coal for export, roughly 2 weeks after it would ban coal exports amid a domestic shortage. 3 are reportedly heading towards South Korea. According to Indonesia's Ministry of Energy and Minerals, however, export permissions are not yet given to some smaller-sized companies that have not fulfilled their domestic market obligations. The country's miners are required to supply 25% of annual production. LG Energy Solution, which makes batteries for EVs, will go public on the local stock market next week. It started taking deposits from retail investors, and demand indicates this will be the biggest Korean IPO in history. Min Suk-hyun fills us in.
A securities firm in Seoul is swarming with elderly investors seeking to bid for shares in one of the most anticipated initial public offerings of this year.
I don't really do this often, but this time I wanted to take part. Since I came all the way out here and it's so cold, I hope I can get at least one share.
Starting Tuesday, LG Energy Solution has been taking pre-order deposits from retail investors. And just an hour after its start, investors apparently placed more than $9 billion in deposits at 7 local brokerages. Demand was overwhelming throughout the day as investors put in over $27 billion in deposits. The competition for shares by individual investors was 20-1.
During its 2-day public subscription, the company plans to offer about 10.6 million to 12.7 million shares to retail investors. That's 25 to 30% of the total 42.5 million shares set for the IPO.
According to the company, 50% of those shares will be equally distributed among investors who've made bids for at least 10 shares, while the remaining 50% will be assigned proportionately. In its initial public offering this month, the world's second largest battery maker is expected to raise almost $11 billion, by far the country's biggest ever IPO. A total of 42.5 billion shares will be issued, and shares are priced at the top of their range at about $250 apiece. Upon listing, the company will be valued at around $59 billion. It will be the third biggest listed company on South Korea's main bourse Kospi after Samsung Electronics and SK hynix. Most of the funds from the IPO will be used to expand its battery manufacturing facilities, both home and abroad. The blockbuster IPO is set to take place next Thursday on January 27th. Min Suk-hyun, Arirang News.
South Korea's central bank says the won weakening against the U.S. dollar in the past year is largely due to surging prices of raw materials and high dependence on China. The exchange rate rose more than 8%, far more than the rate for the currencies of other major developing countries at 2.7%. According to the BOK, soaring raw material prices hurt Korea's terms of trade and, in turn, its economy. Not to be overlooked, growing concerns about a slowdown in China. The report called for stronger monitoring of the forex market to minimize the impact of other external factors like inflation in the U.S. Despite the global shortage of semiconductors and other disruptions at factories due to the pandemic, South Korea's auto industry was the world's 5th biggest in terms of production. A growing part of their success, exports of eco-friendly cars. Kim Do-yeon helps us look beyond the digits.
For the second year in a row, South Korea held on to its number 5 spot in the world for global automobile production. According to the Korea Automobile Manufacturers Association, South Korean automobile companies produced 3.46 million cars in 2021. That's down slightly by 1.3% from the year before, but the global auto industry has been hit hard by chip shortages as well as the prolonged COVID-19 pandemic. Ahead of South Korea in the rankings, making up the top 4 are China, the US, Japan, and India.
Although we have previously ranked 5th, India and Mexico rose in the rankings, pushing South Korea down to 7th. However, the world has been struggling due to COVID-19, while South Korea responded well in terms of virus prevention and was able to take back 5th place.
One of the driving forces behind the result is South Korean industry giant Hyundai Motor Group, which actually made 5.3% more cars last year than it did in 2020, despite most other major automakers seeing a fall in production. The company has also ranked 3rd for global market share in 2021, maintaining the company's upward trend. As for auto exports, there were rises in both the number of cars sold as well as sales. South Korean companies exported more than 2 million cars, collecting 24.2% more in sales compared to the year before. Industry stats show that this is backed by the rise in sales of eco-friendly cars, especially hybrid engines. For the fourth year in a row, the number of exported eco-friendly cars broke all-time annual records, even seeing a 50% increase on year in 2021. Now, around a fifth of all South Korean auto exports are eco-friendly cars. Industry experts as well as automakers expect the recovery phase to continue this year, and by 2023, things may get back to pre-pandemic levels. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
For the first time, EVs surpassed diesel models in terms of sales in Europe. According to the Financial Times, more than 20% of new cars sold in the region in December were all electric. Diesel cars accounted for less than 19%. The report cites government data from 18 different markets, including the UK. It attributes the increase to government subsidies for eco-friendly cars and growing environmental awareness among buyers. Sales of diesel cars in Europe have been steadily declining since the Volkswagen scandal in 2015, when the company was found to have cheated emissions tests. There have also been bans on older diesel cars and higher taxes.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. A thick layer of ashes covering the entire island. A whole village destroyed and other buildings missing on the smaller outer islands of Tonga. This catastrophe came after a volcano eruption in the southern Pacific Ocean on Saturday. The New Zealand High Commission reported on Tuesday that the eruption and tsunami caused significant damage to Tonga's main island, Tongatapu, and the waterfront of the capital, Nuku'alofa, where many vacation resorts are located. British national Angela Glover was found dead after the tsunami. She was reportedly trying to rescue the dog she looked after at a rescue shelter. No official deaths or injuries have been reported yet, as the main undersea communications cable has been disconnected since the eruption. The Tonga government said the country is trying to restore its communications with the smaller islands as a matter of priority. Major Canadian cities saw massive snowstorms, dumping several centimeters of snow on Monday. An extreme weather warning is in effect for much of southeastern Canada, with Toronto forecast to receive as much as 60 centimeters of snow. The snowstorm has caused more than a third of flights to be cancelled at Toronto Pearson Airport, Canada's busiest. With Ottawa also seeing more than 40 centimeters of snow, snow removal crews say it'll take days before roads are fully cleared. This black diamond is literally from outer space. Dubbed the Enigma, it is the largest diamond in the world. It was unveiled on Monday by auction house Sotheby's Dubai. Experts say the 555.55 carat diamond is likely at least 1 billion years old. It will be auctioned off in London in February, where it is expected to fetch around $6 million. The auction house will also be accepting cryptocurrencies as a form of payment. Black diamonds are formed out of a meteoric impact and found naturally only in Brazil and Central Africa. Lee Yoon, Arirang News.
Cold wave conditions will continue for tomorrow. Temperatures will get a tad warmer, but conditions will feel just as cold due to the frigid wind chills. Along with the frosty weather, snowfall is in the forecast nationwide. Snow will start to fall from the Seoul metropolitan area tomorrow daytime and will spread nationwide by the evening. Heavy bands of snowfall are expected for the east coast. For coastal areas of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces, heavy snowfall of up to 15 centimeters is expected. The rest of central regions, including the Seoul metropolitan area, will see 1 to 5 centimeters. Make sure to have an umbrella handy when heading out. Morning lows range from -11 to 2 degrees nationwide. Seoul will start off at -7 degrees Celsius. In most regions, we'll see temperatures in the positive territory for the daytime. Seoul and Chuncheon will get up to 0 degrees, Gwangju 7, Busan and Jeju will make it to 8 degrees Celsius. Readings will return to the seasonal average by Friday afternoon. Until then, make sure to wrap up extra warm. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Time to wrap things up. As always, thank you for staying with us.